Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Maybe good morning or good evening, depends on where you are. Welcome to our webinar, Weathering the Storm, Innovative Tools for Local Authorities to Tackle Water Hazards in a Changing Climate. My name is Katharina Schilling. I'm the head of Secretariat of IWD, and I'm very happy you're joining us today for this webinar that we are co-hosting jointly with our member Mosaica. Before we start, I would just like to do a little bit of housekeeping. Just that you know, this session will be recorded and made available on demand. And following the webinar, the on-demand recording and the presentation slides will be published on our website on the events page. And whoever registered for this webinar will also receive an email alert, so you know where to find it. Very important for today is we have two ways for you to interact with us. That's on the one hand, the chat box. Please use this one for general requests and interactions with other participants. So, for example, you could introduce yourself briefly and let us know which institution you belong to. In addition, we have the so-called Q&A box. In case you want to drop any question, please use only the Q&A box to send questions to the panelists. Please note that the attendees' microphones are muted, so we are not responding to raised hands. In addition, in case you want to receive our latest updates on similar webinars, then please just scan this QR code where you can register to our website. And with that, I would like to hand over to your moderator for today, which is Dr. Mariana Adamova. She is CEO of Mosaica, as I said, a member of IWD, based in Bulgaria, and she will facilitate the webinar today and walk you through the program. So, Mariana, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. It is the second from a series that we have started within our project with the European Space Agency, ISMO-CD Deploy. The European Space Agency has been supporting us for 10 years, close to 10 years, now in our efforts to demonstrate the value of the use of Earth observation and artificial intelligence in the realm of water resources management. The topic of water resources management has always been important. However, it is becoming really critical in the context of climate change as we face incontinent weather with long periods of droughts followed by severe flood events. Floods have serious social and economic impacts and are a challenge for a great number of institutions from the public sector. That is why we decided to focus our attention today on stakeholders and use cases that are predominantly affected from floods as responsible for the population, for securing a safe transport and cities. We will also bring to the forefront the technological solutions that help playing out what-if scenarios, receiving advance warning, etc. Now, without further ado, let me introduce our panel today. First, Miloš Alavanja. He is an advisor for disaster risk management emergencies from the Standing Conference of Towns and Municipalities, an organization that is a member of NALAS. Second, Bojidar Yankov, who is General Secretary of the Executive Agency for Monitoring and Exploration of Danube River in Bulgaria, who are our users for our power deployment. Radoslav Rusev, who is a CEO of Vodata, a consultancy in utility and agriculture sectors. And last but not least, Dr. Emil Stoyanov, who is Chief Architect at Mosaica, the Humanizing Technologies Lab, who will present the technological angle of the discussion. So now let me please give the floor to Miloš to start our conversation. Milos, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mariana. Hello, everyone. I hope you can see my screen. My name is Milos Alavanja, and I'm working in the Standing Conference of Towns and Municipalities in Serbia as advisor for the disaster risk reduction management. And for those who don't know, Standing Conference of Towns and Municipalities is a national association of towns and municipalities in Serbia with 170 members. So 170 members of towns and municipalities in Serbia. They are all our members, and basically we are a channel for communication between the local and the national level. So the scope of work of Standing Conference and is really big. But today we will be focusing on the disaster risk reduction and what we did in the previous years. So before I will start with my presentation, but just a brief background before I start with today's topic, and why are we dealing with disaster risk reduction in Serbia intensively in the previous years. So I assume you all are familiar with the floods in Serbia that occurred in 2014 because affected not just Serbia but the neighboring country Croatia and Bosnia and Herzegovina. And the floods occurred between May 13 and the 27 in 2014, and a lot of rain fell in those couple of days. In just 24 hours, over 100 millimeters of rain fell, and up to 200 millimeters over 2-3 days. So that's the several times the monthly average. A total of 57 people died in Serbia during those days, and 1.6 million people were directly affected. So the material damage was estimated at around 500 million euros, and the state of emergency was declared on the May 15th. The floods really opened up a discussion on climate resilience, risk management, and the need for better infrastructure. And that's where our story actually began. And since 2014, that's when the Standing Conference really took up with the problem, and we are trying to empower our members, the local self-governments, to be better able to deal with emergencies in the future. So one of our key areas in dealing with the emergencies caused by floods in Serbia is we are encouraging the local self-governments to try to somehow form intermunicipal cooperation. And that's the term that is being recognized by the national level. And I will talk a little bit more about the legal framework, what is intermunicipal cooperation, and how to sustain such a form of cooperation. So the concept of intermunicipal cooperation, so that's the intermunicipal cooperation is a part of a local self-government system and a form of decentralized public service delivery. There is a purpose for intermunicipal cooperation, especially in Serbia, in the emergency management, because it involves various forms of interaction between municipalities and cities, and it's important that says it represents a voluntary cooperation and the shared interests. The purpose of cooperation is aimed at providing assistance, exchanging experience, and jointly planning and undertaking measures and activities in the field of the DRR. The reasons for intermunicipal cooperations are influenced by numerous factors: geographic and demographic characteristics, territory size, economic and industrial potential of the local self-governments, of course, finances, then we are coming to the human resources, where there is a big difference between the big cities and the smaller municipalities, who are all obliged to do the same things by the law, and the capacities are really not the same. So then again, intermunicipal cooperation steps in, and it's basically what we see the best way to overcome those obstacles. So the main strengths of intermunicipal cooperations include really good communication and the coordination among the municipalities, partner experience. So the more experience you have in emergency management, the better you are, unfortunately. And there are shared priorities and interests, and pooling of capacities and resources. When we are discussing the motives and reasons for establishing the intermunicipal cooperation, we refer to shared interests and goals in forming partnership, pooling financial resources for efficient use and development of resources, and capacity buildings. So why is this really important? Because it helps with the joint planning and implementations of measures in emergencies, and increases the efficiency and accessibility of public services. So a legal framework that allows us to and support us in developing the intermunicipal cooperation in Serbia is, first of all, is the European Charter of Local Self-Government and the law on local self-government in Serbia. But probably the main thing that happened in the changes in the legal framework since the floods in 2014 is the adoption of the law on disaster risk reduction and emergency management in 2018. And that's the law that changes a lot of things in Serbia, and a lot of municipalities are really struggling to fulfill all of the requirements given in that law. And since then, we are really trying to help municipalities to strengthen or build their local emergency management systems to be in line with the law on disaster risk reduction and emergency management. And yet again, the best possible solution that we came up with is the intermunicipal cooperation. So these are some of the most important obligations of towns and municipalities in Serbia when it comes to disaster risk reduction system. And as I said a couple of minutes before, so all of the cities and municipalities in Serbia, they are obliged to implement some of the requirements from the law, and the most important are preparation and adoption of the risk assessment, protection and rescue plan, and disaster risk reduction plan. So those three things are the most important, and we are trying to somehow so every municipality is obliged to do that, but when we are forcing the intermunicipal cooperation, we are trying to develop those plans on the wider geographical area for several municipalities to cover the bigger territory and with more inhabitants. So that is one of the key things that we are trying to do to convince the national level that there is a motive to do the risk assessment and protection and rescue plan for a wider geographical area, which we are really close to do it, with a couple of examples that I will provide you later on. So as you can see on this slide, and you will get the slide, I don't really want to read every bullet from this slide, because there are really a lot of obligations for the cities and municipalities in Serbia that really needs to be implemented. And you have a situation where you have small municipalities in Serbia who have only one employee, and in the municipality dealing with the disaster risk reduction, and that one person is really not capable to carry on such an important tasks. And on the other hand, you have bigger cities who have departments for the disaster risk reduction, and they can much easier fulfill these requirements from the law. And then again, there is one more reason to have the intermunicipal cooperation, where these smaller municipalities will have support and help from the bigger cities who are basically sharing the borders. So that is the key. Why are we trying to enforce the intermunicipal cooperation? There are a couple of possible forms of cooperation. So we did an analysis, what is the best way to form, in which way to form the intermunicipal cooperation, and we came up with 5 possible ways of cooperation, but we are really pushing to only one, and that's the joint service. And we have a couple of steps to establish first joint service in intermunicipal cooperation in Serbia, but there are 5. So that's establishment of a public enterprise, establishment of an association, delegation of responsibilities to other municipalities, establishment of a coordination body, and a joint service. As I said, our favorite form of cooperation. So since 2018, we formed 5 forms of cooperation, intermunicipal cooperation, and they are gathered around big rivers in Serbia, and around 60 municipalities are established as some sort of coordination body, where they have a platform for exchanging experience, exchanging knowledge, even as those coordination bodies that are jointly working together based on the agreement signed among the municipalities. They can apply for the projects financed by the international organizations, even ask for the finances on the national level when there are funds for the disaster risk reduction. So it is possible to do some great things with establishing our coordination bodies. As I said, we have 5 formed around 5 big rivers, and one is going to be our example today. Best practice examples of intermunicipal cooperation in Serbia are West Morava River Basin, Drina River Basin, and during pandemic there's city of Kraljevo and city municipality of Vračar from Belgrade. They formed intermunicipal cooperation, even though they are really not close enough to share the same problems, but during the COVID-19 and the pandemics, they came up with some great solutions to cope with the pandemics. So it is possible to form the intermunicipal cooperation, even though you are not bordering, or it's not something that it happens every day, but they did a great job in thinking about new solutions for the pandemics. But today we will talk about the Western Morava River Basin and the floods that have happened since 2014. So the cooperation agreement signed in 2018. So they were the first river basin that signed this agreement in 2018. Afterwards, we had the Kolubara river basin signed, 2 on Danube and 1 on Velika Morava. So those are the 5, and later on the Drina river basin. Those are the 5 river basins, and the cooperation among municipalities. I've said something around 60 municipalities are included in this type of cooperation. So the West Morava river basin itself counts 19 local self-governments, where you have 5 big cities that carry the majority of the work, and the rest are the smaller municipalities that really are trying to give their best to strengthen the system on the West Morava River Basin. So the West Morava River Basin municipalities cover more than 11,000 square kilometers of territory inhabited by 800,000 of citizens, which is really a lot, and that is the one of our strongest arguments why are we forcing the intermunicipal and pushing for the intermunicipal cooperation, because it's much more efficient if you are doing that for a group of municipalities that are on one river. Through the project Sustainable and Inclusive Services at the local level, financed by the Swedish International Developing Agency, SWIDA Standing Conference supported the cooperation within the West Morava River Basin. So throughout the project, we had several workshops held for more than 100 participants from 19 municipalities, and the key topics covered with the workshops, and those are the vulnerable groups in disaster risk reduction, and the focus on the gender perspectives in the disaster risk reduction and emergency management, especially when it comes to floods and reactive response. So, one of the topics was the roles and responsibilities of civil protection units, and the civil protection is a really important part of the system, and urban planning and the impact of climate changes. That's a really important topic, and so why the urban planning and the climate changes? Because the context of climate changes and the increasing need for adaptation, it's a crucial aspect in the approach of implementing the support towards the municipalities. During the process, there were numerous civil servants, servants from the local self-governments were taught about the impact of urban planning and the climate changes. So when you are covering the territory of 11,000 square kilometers in one area, it's really important to emphasize the climate changes and the urban planning and how are they correlated. And one of the biggest project results in the River Morava West Morava River Basin is the education and the exercises for the kids in elementary schools. So more than 500 children in 5 municipalities participated in the civil protection exercises, where we teach kids in elementary schools how to evacuate if there's a flood, and we are trying to make multiple risks. So there are floods and earthquakes combined, and that is something that are the greatest benefits of the project. So those pupils in the elementary schools and how they absorb the knowledge and the importance of these kind of exercises. And I will just say that we had a situation in one municipality in Serbia. They didn't have any kind of exercises or lecturing about disaster risk reduction for 40 years, which is really a lot. And they had 5 big floods in the past 6 years. So it's more than necessary to educate and exercise with the youngest population. But again, the professors in school, they did not know how to do it, because they were not in situation to show them what to do. So we were really relying on the examples from the EU, and we had some study visits to Japan, where they do it on a daily basis, basically struggling with earthquakes and having exercises and education. So that's something really important to work with the youngest population. So River Morava, West Morava River Basin, those 19 municipalities, they are working on working on the joint risk assessment and the protection and rescue plans, which will be finalized in the next couple of days, supported with this SIDA financed project. And all of the results will be implemented, and we will have a joint risk assessment, as I've said, for a larger territory than having each risk assessment for each municipality. So we'll have one for the 19 municipalities for more than 800,000 inhabitants. And we believe that in that way, that all the territory will be much safer, and they will be able to work on prevention, and they will be better in the reaction if the floods occur. But since 2014 and the big floods that affected this area, they had 3 or 4 almost the same emergency situation with such a big floods. So they really need support, and if they are working closely together, I think that they will succeed in developing the better disaster risk reduction system. That's all, if I could say in this 15 minutes. If you have any questions, please contact me. This is my email and my phone number. Text me whatever doubts you have, or questions, issues, comments, and I'll be more than happy to provide you with the answers. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Milos. Thank you for your contribution and for the interesting presentation. Do someone from the audience have questions to Milos right now? Okay, before moving to the next speaker and to make the transition, I thought during your presentation, how do you deal with this legal framework within in the aspects of the transboundary rivers, like the Danube, for example? Is this legal framework transferable somehow, or you're working for inside Serbia?
Yeah. So for now, we are only trying to develop the proper intermunicipal cooperation inside the territory of Serbia. But we have we had a couple of meetings with the municipalities in Bosnia and Herzegovina regarding the Drina River Basin, and we need to establish the best form of cooperation. Then later on, we have a possible cooperation on the Croatia border regarding the Danube River, but there are some things that needs to be finalized, because the risks are definitely the same in all of the countries, and the river is the same. But we still need to come up with the best possible solution, because it's not the same. The legal framework, it's not the same in the Croatia and Serbia. So there some things needs to be crystallized and really clear for all the municipalities, because you need to involve the finances, you need to involve the staff. So there are some questions really open, but the interest which is more important exists. So all sides are on the same track when it comes to dealing with the floods, and they're sharing the same river. So what happens in Croatia, it might come to Serbia as well. What happens in Bosnia and Herzegovina, it will definitely come to Serbia and the Serbian municipalities. So if we are closely working together, the damage will be much less. So there are some ongoing talks, and hopefully in the future we will have example of first intermunicipal cross-border cooperation, but firstly between the Bosnia and Herzegovina and Serbia on the river Drina River Basin.
Thank you very much
for
the answer. And now let's move to the Danube River and to the navigation. We decided to carry out a series of questions, Q&A session with Božidar Jankov. So hi Božidar, the floor is yours. So I will be asking the questions, and this mini interview hopefully will give you an idea about the situation with the navigation of rivers. So my first question to you, Božidar, is what is your experience with flood management on the Danube?
Hello, Mariana. Hello, everyone from sunny Russia on the Danube. Fortunately, our riverbank is higher than the Romanian, so we don't have such big issues with flooding on Bulgarian territory. Anyway, in upper and in middle Danube, we all know that there are some problems with floods. In lower Danube, we have a wide river plain, which helps us to deal with big quantities of water. The only problem I could say, which is not a real problem for the navigation from our point of view, is the clearance under the bridges. But I never heard about problems with this issue in our stretch. I speak Russe-Giurgiu Bridge and Vidin-Calafat Bridge. Anyway, we are monitoring the water levels continuously on a daily basis, 24/7, so we can know some places that are a little bit lower than the others that could be flooded in certain cases. So we can help the local authorities and the regional authorities in order to alert the people to that a wave is coming, for example.
Okay, and then in the case of high water levels, the fairway is affected because of higher sediment deposition in the critical areas?
Exactly, that is the case. Bigger water quantities and higher water levels bring a lot of sediments, and these sediments are deposited especially on bottlenecks, as we say, the critical sections for navigation. And it's a problem when we have this kind of events, this kind of sedimentation, because we have to provide with a certain parameters of the fairway, of the navigational channel recommended by the Danube Commission in favor of the navigation. So for us, when we have such intensive sedimentation as it happens in lower Danube, we have problems with providing the parameters of the navigational channel.
Do you use sediment deposition predictions in order to help you track the fair and secure a safe fairway? Or
Yes, for us it's very important if we are able to to predict and to forecast the fairway alignment, the sedimentation on the fairway, in order to realign the trajectory of the fairway, or to do some other activities in order to, for example, to narrow the fairway by moving the floating signalization, or to do some dredging works in order to remove, to replace the sediment from the fairway in order to provide good navigational conditions. So the forecast of the sedimentation on the fairway is really, really important for us. If we're able to predict and to see how it will evolve in the future for the next, I don't know, let's say 1 month or 3 weeks, it would be perfect.
Okay. And thank you for these clarifications. And last but not least, on the topic of climate change, do you see some or notice some differences in the river levels that are caused by the climate change, and eventually how do they impact the fairway?
Unfortunately, during the last few years, we observed such major impact from the global warming and climate change, negative impact, unfortunately, on the water levels, respectively on the depths in the river. And this provokes us and demands us to be proactive, to do some dredging works in order to deep the navigational channel. And this cost a lot of money, and unfortunately, it's a bad situation with the climate change.
Okay, so let's see how the technology will be helping you resolve some of and tackle some of these issues and problems. So thank you very much for your answers and for this discussion. I would address now the audience. So do you have questions to Mr. Božidar Jankov with respect to the Danube right now, or we can move to the next presentation, and we will have a time for discussion after the end of the presentations. So I don't see questions in the Q&A answer. So again, you're supposed to write questions in the Q&A panel and not on the chat panel, in order for us to be able to register them. Thank you very much for this. Thank you, Božidar. And then now let's move to Radoslav Rusev from WODATA, who is going to give us the utility sector perspective.
Thank you, Mariana, and pleasure to be part of this event. Let me share a couple of slides that I have prepared. Can you just confirm that you see them?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I think it's fair to say that the topic of floods is becoming more and more important for water utilities. I think it used to be less so. I mean, the water utilities are more on the engineering and customer service side of managing water, not so much on the environmental side. And except for the people in the sewer departments and wastewater treatment, the difficult predictability and the variation in rainfall and the climate change impact, except for these colleagues, this topic was less popular, but is increasingly becoming so. I will try to present a couple of complementary angles to the flooding topic, particularly from the perspective of water utilities. And I'll try to be rather short, actually. So what I'm trying to say is here, these are the reflection of water utility person thinks about when he or she thinks about flooding. So first thing is, of course, the direct impact on the customer. Flooded basements, flooded streets, etc. Myself, I'm ex-control room manager of a relatively large water utility, and two major operations events dominate the queues in a call center of a water utility. One is leaks, second is flooding. Of course, I'm speaking for Eastern European water utilities where leaks are a rather common event, unfortunately. But a couple of cases per year, the floods are the big thing. So the first association of the word flooding is impact on customers. Second, and you will see that in these 5 angles to the topics, I will somehow move from more reactive towards more proactive types of perspectives. The second is the O&M, the operations of sewers. I think it's fair to say that 20 years ago, sewers were perceived to be assets that were very low maintenance, even low operations, while more and more they are actually assets that need inspection, cleaning, understanding of the bottlenecks, and other preventative events. One of the reasons for that is to make sure that they are in as good shape as possible. They have as proper ability to pass large volumes. They are ready for potential floods. So this is the second angle. Customer service leads towards operations. The third, and I would say probably the most important in the context of today's event, in the context of predictability, assessment of the risk, is the topic of investment planning and implementation of capital investment projects. When I was putting my thoughts together for today's event, for my short presentation, I had a small chat with a couple of colleagues who were heavily involved in the feasibility study and the EU funded application for a couple of municipalities in Bulgaria and the region. And they were telling me that one of the biggest investment driver was the planning of the downstream effect of the big rains. This, of course, relates immediately to solutions like buffer reservoirs, like large diameter facilities, etc. But the really important topic here is precise data for the purposes of hydraulic modeling. I put a picture here of the famous Tideway tunnel, the big London tunnel, which, if I'm not mistaken, costs more than 7 billion pounds and was made operational very recently. Probably the single biggest sanitation investment for many years to come. So the third topic is investments and the critical impact of flooding and how to utilize hydraulic modeling and drainage area studies for the purposes of good data-driven modeling. Fourth, tightly linked to the previous topic because it's a major driver for investments, is of course the compliance-driven investments, with a huge subtopic of combined sewer overflows. I'm sure, judging also by the introductions in the chat, and very glad to see people from both environmental authorities, but also people with water utility experience. Before I started my presentation, because I'm not looking at the chat, there were a couple of colleagues from both perspectives. I think it's obvious, not obvious. I think it's fair to say that one of the biggest environmentally compliance-driven factor for investments in sanitation is the impact of combined sewer overflows. Probably that risk was made public in the last couple of years, particularly in the United Kingdom and particularly in Thames Water. That was the previous slide was referring to. There is a big environmental drive in recent years to reduce the impact of sewer overflows, to make them overflow less frequently, big factor. There were some great studies that I recently came across that the impact of overflowing sewers, CSOs, is bigger than the fact that big cities do not have tertiary or sometimes even secondary level treatment. So long story short, environmental regulations, the fourth angle to water utilities, and how the flood makes the sewers overflow or even bypass the treatment plants. That's the specific angle in the context of today's event. Last but not least, a topic which I believe is coming, and I wanted to finish my presentation on a rather positive note. More and more, the environmental and utility topics are overlapping. More and more, water utilities are implementing nature-based solutions, to use the common term. I think this tendency will only grow bigger, and more utility infrastructure planners and operators are looking towards not only nature-based, but nature-inspired, nature-driven, or just utilizing nature itself. More and more people in the water utility sector are looking how nature works and what it does with water, instead of channeling and making the water go as quickly as possible in as big as possible sewer pipes to treatment facilities, how to utilize it the way nature would have done it. I'm sure many of you have heard about the famous phrase of slow it, sink it, spread it, in taking care of water by restoring water cycles, or at least trying to make sure that you operate as closely as possible with nature. So that's what I wanted to share with you, that there are a number of complementary angles through which water utilities look at floods, at rains, at waves, at rain intensity, and they vary from operations, customer service, investment planning, regulation, but also they move more and more towards understanding nature and mimicking it and trying to implement it into our operations. Thank you for the opportunity. I hope the water utilities are recognized as an important stakeholder in this whole debate about flooding and water in nature. Let me stop my presentation.
Thank you, Radu. Thank you for the intriguing points that you made during your talk. We have a little a note from at the Q&A, which I would like to read out for you. It is not a question, but a comment by Professor Ginali from Albania. He says, congratulations to Radu for highlighting the crucial link between sewage and floods, an emerging hot topic in infrastructure. So we look forward to explore the opportunities to move to the utility sector little by little with what you will be hearing in the next presentation. I had one small question related to your points. When speaking for investments, do you have an idea about the sources of these investments? Are they government investments usually, or more the utility sector investments?
It's a mixture of investments. In recent years, these have been primarily EU funded. If I try to answer your question a bit more holistically, it has to be a combination of sources. Utility, I mean, the term that we use in the water sector is the combination of tariffs, taxes, and transfers. So it's the utility bills, but also environmental taxes, but also investments from the owner of the infrastructure, typically municipalities or the governments. And for good or bad reasons, the prime funders for that kind of projects in Central and Eastern Europe and in the majority of the Danube River Basin has been EU-funded projects. I think this profile will change, and for sustainability reasons, in the long term, we'll have to rely more and more on national sources. So, long story short, it's a combination of sources with a strong distortion towards EU-funded projects.
Okay, I see. Thank you very much for this insight. And now, to keep the timeline, to keep on time, let's move to the next presentation. Emo is going to present basically our solution, and we'll have some minutes after for discussion. Emo, the floor is yours.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I hope you can hear me. I will start now the presentation. Okay.
It is not the first slide.
Yeah.
It is not the first time.
Now it should be the first one, right? Okay. First of all, thank you for all the interesting presentations and very meaningful kind of perspectives, because what we at Mosaica try to achieve is really basically try to use the latest available technologies and perspectives to achieve better impact and better understanding of the problematics and provide some solutions. So basically, with Mosaica, we have developed a pretty interesting novel way to provide information for water resource management that includes AI, but not your typical ChatGPT. It's a very different AI that is much more sophisticated, and using data from the Earth observation initiatives. And with this, we are able to provide very interesting insights and forecasts. So I'll move to next. So first of all, we look at what are the needs and who is involved in the water resource management. These are the decision makers that basically look for ways to help them take decisions on how to sustain, how to help the sustainable development of a region, or prevent water scarcity and handle hazardous situations, because these, as Radu mentioned, are affecting, not only, the governmental and the public resources, but also the private resource investments. And then, not last, we in the water resource management, we include also the energy generation potential. The other aspect is, which we all here agree is one of the most important, is when it comes to the flood. And the flood is a disastrous situation that affects municipalities, and municipalities are so much into the position of, let's say, they're in charge of saving lives, trying to prevent saving lives, reduce the risk of damages, and kind of try to control this, although a flood is not really controllable, but with the more information and more insights, you can actually prevent a lot of disasters and save life. So basically, with Mosaico, we have this also mission here to reduce damages and to help saving lives with such solutions by helping decision-making municipalities do their job better. And yeah, so it's not only business, also mission here. But in the case of a flood, I think also what makes a lot of importance also is to put a way to create better policies for the future. So once you get the data and you have already the problem, it's one thing, but you have to also be able to take this and move it to the next step and try to prevent what's happening. And if you have data for this, like forecasting, you can improve the policies around handling such situations. And here comes Mosaico. Mosaico has already a vast experience from projects in the span of 10 years, around maybe less than 10 years, that involve water resource management and forecasting with the help of machine learning and AI. And all this knowledge has been condensed now in the solution that we think through the way it provides information disrupts also the whole idea of water resource management. And with the team and the solution, we are trying to improve the efficiency and operational aspect and try to provide warning facilities, alerting, and help the decision makers actually do their job better. Mosaico takes seriously the initiative of the Earth observation for AI and AI for Earth observation. There are two sides of this. We're using the Earth observation for AI, that is an initiative from European Space Agency that facilitates and helps projects being developed in the context of providing instruments, tools for forecasting of disasters, in our case, the flood. So what we do is we take a lot of different aspects like data, current technologies, current development techniques, and combine them in order to achieve a complete system that provides a lot of value in this aspect. So we're using neural networks, we use semantic technology, linked data, forecasting models, AI, specific data processing, normalization. These are all technical terms, and I know that the audience here is not technical, but these are really the tools that we use in order to make the system innovative and provide more value at the end. That's the goal. So when we use the Earth observation data, what are the parameters that are included in order to create a forecast? And here we see the difficult meteorological and environmental factors that are taken into account when we create models for forecasting, like flooding and disaster planning and so on. So we include the turbidity, we include snow cover, precipitation, of course, and all these parameters are taken into account in order to create the so-called prediction models or forecasting models. These forecasting models are essential part of the system, and we have several variants that are provided at the user disposal through the user interface of the system. These forecasting models are taking between 5 and 10 years of information collected from satellites, from different data sources, and they're crunched and processed in such a way that with few clicks, a user can generate the 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, or 1 month forecast for the behavior of a specific water reservoir or a dam, a river. So basically, you can try to see the future through the way the history has behaved. And this machine learning techniques are achieving this with a very good accuracy. So basically, once a forecast is made, it can be compared to the real data that comes as in situ measurements. So basically, then you can say, okay, this model is really good or is really bad. But in our case, our models are really very close to the in situ measurements. And taking the new data, we're in position to improve the models and bring the accuracy to new levels. So I want to show you how actually it looks. It's the application as a user-facing aspect is very simple to use. Why we think it's disruptive? Because we currently observe a very kind of outdated way of managing information, and basically it's all Excel files and some documents that fly around. But having those, it's very difficult to put them in a systemic kind of approach for analysis. Usually, it's people rely on somebody expertise and kind of human the human aspect of knowledge about how the weather behaves, what happens when there is a lot of rains and so on, what happens if we get this data from the station in 5 kilometers above the river, and so on. But now, with the help of machine learning, AI, and linked data, we are able to actually produce a very easily image or picture of the situation. So what you see on the screen is that we have a way to query the system through close to natural language prompting, but in a bit of structured way, where you can actually try to correlate different parameters in the system and get different outputs. So you can get a table output, you can get a graph, or you can get and every data that you can query and that is returned as a result, it's put also on a map. So you have at disposal always a visual and a numeric representation of the data. In the case of the flood forecasting, we have even visualization of how the water would spread. So I will look into this into the next slides. But also alerting, as we spoke, if you have a bit of information from the future, you can plan accordingly. And this is what we achieved with Mosaica is having the data from the past. We have with high accuracy, we can predict the way, for example, the way a flood would go, or if at a specific date there would be a raise in the volume, so that you can actually look into the the situation and try to enforce a policy or try to minimize the risk of disaster. And Božidar earlier has mentioned that with tools like this, they can actually predict and be in a position to better manage the river Danube. The integration that we have with them is this kind where they can foresee for several days or weeks the level of the water and also the fairway dynamics. So through the web, they can visualize data, but also this data is linked and integrated into the web workflow on their site. Here we can see that with a simple prompt, simple query to the system, you can see how the fairway will modify because of the different sediments, and especially in the lower Danube, this is an issue. So our forecasting tools are helping also there. In the case of the flood, we see also the way the water spreads around. So you can actually ask for a specific period how the water would be spread from a specific water reservoir or along let's call it the terrain of a specific region. And here, having also the information from the Earth observation and satellite data and everything, we are also able to predict what would be the damages of a specific flood. And this is very important also, as Radu mentioned earlier, how this would affect, first of all, the customers, and second, how it would affect the infrastructure and the investment risk. So these are all interconnected, and the damages evaluation, I see it as a super important feature of the forecasting. And for the purpose of preventive management, we have developed a very interesting component that allows for flood simulation. You can give a specific region, a specific value, and see how the water will spread. And we have also animation that shows actually how it goes. So this is available also as integration. This component is also integrated in the Destination Earth project, and it's very, very interesting. So basically, with 2 clicks, you get a very accurate simulation of the how the flood would affect the terrain and the region and everything. So I spoke a bit how different our approach is, and while there are tools like graphical information systems and SCADA-based solutions, they're not providing they're providing a lot of information for real-time management, for real-time monitoring, for overview, for basically specific monitoring of specific points on the infrastructure. But what makes the solution of Mosaic Hydro different is that integrates everything into a combined visualization, both numeric, graphical, and forecasting, so that it provides all the necessary tools for preventive management and for minimizing the risk of disaster. So we combine satellite data and deep learning and so on, things that are necessary nowadays in order to achieve a good prediction model. We have graph view, we have semantic interoperability. So what this means is that on the underlying layer of data, we have all the data comes into one coherent structure, which allows for this very complex correlation queries that the system allows, that I showed you earlier. And also having this, it can be linked easily to other systems which share the same vocabulary. So it's a super integrative approach to the system. As a summary, we worked hard. We had a mission that is to minimize the risk, to save lives through a system and through innovative technology that provides this web-based workflow for requesting information, for seeing forecasting, using AI technology from the latest hours that basically that comes out as a research. And we think we have made something that is easy to use. It's a hands-on solution that is ready to be deployed around the world, and not only for water resource management, but we hope also for utility, for energy, and so on. So I think I just hit the 16th minute. Thank you very much for the attention, and any questions are welcome.
Mariana, you're muted.
Sorry. So thank you, Emo, for your presentation. I hope I don't see questions in the Q&A. So that is why we have a couple of minutes. So I would like to fill in the time with asking questions myself to the panelists. I hope it became like the capabilities that we provide with ISME Hydro have become clear and are good complementary to the problems that have been discussed by Rado, Božidar, and Milos, and that they can see how such a solution can help the issues that they have raised. So now let me go one by one. My question to Milos is, having presented this very extensive organizational and legal initiative involving many stakeholders and different communication and educational initiatives, how far are you on the road to see the technology to help tackle the problems the cooperating municipalities have already identified? Milos?
Sorry, I've lost you, Mariana. Could you please repeat the
Okay.
how far are we?
So the question is, so how far are you on the road to seek technologies that can help you tackle the problems the cooperating municipalities have identified?
Yeah. So
Do you
at this
consider?
Yeah, so at this point, the situation in Serbia is that we are developing the risk register. It's a platform jointly done by the Sector of Emergencies and the Republican Geodetic Institution, where we are collecting all the risks that are that could be present in Serbia. So it's basically a platform for collecting information, which will serve later on to develop some sort of a software for influencing the announcement of the upcoming risks. But at this point, we do not have any sort of software or any kind of technological solution that will help local self-governments to be prepared for any kind of risks when it comes to intermunicipal cooperation and communication. So we use Viber groups, and it's on a daily basis where we communicate all 19 municipalities, and I'm part of the communication group where we exchange information and things that are happening in each municipalities. But as a software that can be provided to other municipalities in Serbia, as I said at the beginning, there's 170 municipalities, so one software that can be shared with others does not exist. So we are hoping after the establishment of this risk register platform, where all municipalities will join and share their experience and the knowledge, that the next step in the fighting with the hazards will be providing municipalities with some sort of software or technical solution. But at this point, we do not have any kind of technical solution to support local self-governments in the preventive or in the reactive response.
Thank you very much. Kati, do we have time for 2 more questions? So,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
So let's go. Okay. So to Rado, with all the angles that you presented, how do you, and the last presentation by Emo in mind, how do you see ISME Hydro can get into the utility sector?
Thank you for your question. Well, my perspective is a bit limited on the deep technicalities, but for sure, my opinion is that number one applicability, functionality, whatever you call it, is the improvement of data for hydraulic modeling purposes. I think the correct term that we need to use is the drainage area studies and the modeling of their impact. Now, I know this is a very rapidly evolving area because even the more conservative planners and modelers and developers of feasibility assessments are already, I think, even by regulation, starting to play with buffer volumes, with permeabilities and stuff like that. So any sort of improved assessment of the rain and flooding parameters would be hugely beneficial to them. When I was entering the water sector 25 years ago, these things were rather exotic. I mean, hydraulic models and drainage area studies were perceived to be fancy requirements that were not practically used that much. At the moment, any large scale sewer and wastewater planning uses that, and I guess your tool can help a lot in the quality of the input parameters for modeling. I hope I answered from my limited perspective.
Okay, I see. Thank you very much. And to Božidar, how do you see, like now that you have tried using ISME Hydro, how do you see its benefits to the operations or the quality of the services you provide, or what is the potential of the tool, basically, from your perspective?
Yeah, our sector, our job is really specific because of the specifics of the river. As I highlighted before, we have a free-flowing section of the river here, and a lot of processes are taking place, are happening at the same time, including deviations in the water levels, sedimentation process, bank erosion, and so on. So many things are happening. So any instrument, any approach that could give us this possibility to predict the fairway and the sedimentation and the need if we have to do some dredging to remove the sedimentation from the fairway will be in favor of our daily work. So we'll see. The future will show.
Okay. Thank you very much for your answers, and because I think we have exhausted our time for the webinar, so I would like to thank our panelists, Milos, Božidar, Radoslav, and Emo, for their contribution and for their insightful presentations and discussion. I would also like to thank Kati for hosting the seminar and IAVD for hosting this webinar. And of course, dear audience, for the participation and the interest in the topic and what we have presented so far. And we will be back to you soon. Thank you once more for your time and interest, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.